action takes place in the living room of the Pearson's house in a London suburb. Time: the present. Scene: the living room of the Pearson family. Afternoon. It is a comfortably furnished, much-lived-in room in a small suburban semi-detached villa. If necessary, only one door need to be used, but it's better with two. One up left leading to the front door and the stairs, and the other in the right wall leading to the kitchen and the back door. There can be a muslin covered window in the left wall and possibly one in the right wall too. The fireplace is assumed to be in the fourth wall. There is a settee up right, an armchair down left, and one down right. A small table with two chairs on either side of it stands at the. When the curtain rises, it is an afternoon in early autumn and the stage can be well lit. Mrs. Pearson at right and Mrs. Fitzgerald at left are sitting opposite to each other at the small table, on which are two teacups and saucers and the cards with which Mrs. Fitzgerald has been telling Mrs. Pearson's fortune. Mrs. Pearson is a pleasant but worried looking woman in her 40s. Mrs. Fitzgerald is older, heavier, and a stronger and sinister personality. She is smoking. It is very important that these two should have sharply constructing voices. Mrs. Pearson speaking in light, flurried sort of tone, with touch of a suburban cockney perhaps, and Mrs. Fitzgerald with a deep voice, rather Irish perhaps. And
That's all I can tell you. Mrs. Pearson could be a good fortune, could be a bad one. All depends on yourself now. Make up your mind, and there it is.
Yes, thank you, Miss Fitzgerald. I'm much obliged. I'm sure. It's wonderful having a real fortune teller living next door. Did you learn that out east too?
I did 12 years I had of it, with my old man rising to be lieutenant quartermaster. He learned a lot, and I learned a lot more. But will you make up your mind now, Mrs. Pearson dear? Put your foot down once and for all, and be the mistress of your own house and the boss of your own family.
That's easier said than done. Besides, I'm so fond of them, even if they're so thoughtless and selfish. They don't mean to be.
Maybe not, but it would be better for them if they learned to treat you properly.
Yes, I suppose it would, in a way.
No doubt about it at all. Who's the better for being spoiled? Grown man, lad, or girl? Nobody. You think it does. I am good. When you run after them all the time, take their orders as if you were the servant in the house. Stay at home every night while they going out enjoying themselves. Never in all your life. It's the ruin of them as well as you. Husbands, sons, daughters should be taking notice of wives and mothers, not giving am order and treating am like dirt and don't know more than you have told me.
I keep dropping a hint.
Hints. It's more than hints your family needs, Mrs. Pearson.
I suppose it is, but I do hate any unpleasantness. And it's so hard to know where to start. I keep making up my mind to have it out with them, but somehow I don't know how to begin.
She glances at her watch or at a clock.
Oh, good gracious. Look at the time. Nothing ready, and they'll be home any minute, and probably all in a hurry to go out again.
As she is about to rise, Miss Fitzgerald reaches out across the table and pulls her down.
Let them wait or look after themselves for once. This is where your foot goes down. Start now.
She lights a cigarette from the one she has just finished.
Miss Fitzgerald, I know you mean well. In fact, I agree with you, but I just can't. And it's no use you trying to make me. If I promise, I would really have it out with them. I know I wouldn't be able to keep my promise.
Then let me do it.
Oh no, thank you very much, Mrs. Fitzgerald, but that wouldn't do at all. It couldn't possibly be somebody else. They did represent it at once and wouldn't listen, and really, I couldn't blame them. I know I ought to do it, but you see how it is.
She looks apologetically across the table, smiling rather miserably.
You haven't got the idea?
Oh, a I'm sorry. I thought you asked me to let you do it.
I did, but not as me, as you.
But I don't understand. You couldn't be me.
We change places, or really bodies. You look like me, I look like you.
But that's impossible.
How do you know? Ever tried it?
No, of course not.
I have. Not for some time, but it's still out to work. Won't last long, but long enough for what we want to do. Learned it out east. Of course, where you are up to all these tricks. Give me your hand, dear.
She holds her hand out across the table, keeping the cigarette in her mouth.
Well, I don't know. Is it right?
It's your only chance. Give me your hands and keep quiet a minute. Just don't think about anything. Now look at me. Arstatadam, Arstatalam, Arstatalam Dambona.
This little scene should be acted very carefully. We are assumed that the personalities change bodies. After the spell has been spoken, both women, still grasping hands, go legs as if the life were out of them. They both come to life, but with the personalities of each other. Each must try to adopt the voice and mannerisms of the other. So now Miss Pearson is bold and dominating, and Miss Fitzgerald is nervous and fluttering.
The little scene should be acted very carefully. We are to assume that the personalities change bodies. After the spell has been spoken, both women, still grasping hands, go legs as if the life were out of them. Then both come to the life, but with the personality of the other. Each must try to adopt the voice and mannerisms of the other. So now Mrs. Pearson is bold and dominating, and Mrs. Fitzgerald is nervous and fluttering.
See what I mean, dear. Here, you don't want that.
Mrs. Fitzgerald, now with Mrs. Pearson's personality, looks down at herself and sees that her body has changed and gives a scream of fright.
Oh, it's happened.
Of course, it's happened. Very neat. Didn't know I had it in me.
But whatever shall I do, Mrs. Fitzgerald? George and the children cannot see me like this.
They aren't going to. That's the point. They will have me to deal with. Only they won't know it.
But what if we can't change back? It would be terrible.
Hey, steady, Mrs. Pearson. If you had to live my life, it wouldn't be so bad. You did have more fun as me than you have had as you.
Yes, but I don't want to be anybody else.
Now stop worrying. It's easier changing back. I can do it anytime we want.
Well, do it now.
Not likely. I've got to deal with your family first. That's the idea, isn't it? Didn't know how to begin with them, you said. Well, I will show you.
But what am I going to do?
Go into my house for a bit. There's nobody there. Then pop back and see how we are doing. You ought to enjoy it. Better get off now before one of them comes.
Yes, I suppose that's best. You're sure it will be all right?
It will be wonderful. Now off you go, dear.
Mrs. Fitzgerald crosses and hurries out through the door right. Left to herself, Mrs. Pearson smokes away, lighting another cigarette, and begins laying out the cards for patience on the table. After a few moments, Doris Pearson comes bursting in left. She is a pretty girl in her early 20s, who would be pleasant enough if she had not been spoilt.
Mom, you will have to iron my yellow silk. I must wear it tonight. What are you doing?
Mrs. Pearson now uses her ordinary voice, but her manner is not flickering and apologetic but cool and incisive.
What did you think I'm doing? Whitewashing the ceiling.
You are smoking.
That's right, dear. No law against it. Is there?
I thought you did not smoke.
Then you thought wrong.
Are we having tea in the kitchen?
Have it where you like, dear.
Do you mean it is not ready?
Yours isn't. I have had all I want. Might go out later and get a square meal at the Clarendon.
You might.
I might. Who did you think?
Better with you.
Don't be silly.
It's not me that being silly, and I must say, it's a bit much when I've been working hard all day and you cannot even bother to get my tea ready. Did you hear what I said about my yellow silk?
No, don't you like it now? I never did.
Of course, I like it and I'm going to wear it tonight. So I want it ironed.
Wanted iron. What did you think? It's going to do iron itself.
No, you are going to iron it for me. You always do.
Well, this time I don't. And don't talk rubbish to me about working hard. I have a good idea how much you do, Doris Pearson. I put in twice the hours you do and get no wages nor thanks for it. Why are you going to wear yellow silk? Where are you going?
Out with Charlie Spence.
Why?
Why? Why? What's the matter with you? Why should not I go out with Charlie Spence? If he asks me and I want to. Any objection? Go on. You might as well as tell me.
Can't you find anybody better? I wouldn't be seen deed with Charlie Spence, buck teeth and half-witted.
He is not.
When I was your age, I'd have found somebody better than Charlie Spence, or given myself up as a bad job.
Shut up.
After a moment, Cyril Pearson enters left. He is the masculine counterpart of Doris.
Hello, Mom. Tea is ready?
No,
Why not?
I couldn't bother.
Feeling off color or something?
Never felt better in my life.
What is the idea then?
Just a change.
Well, snap out it, Ma, and get cracking. Haven't too much time.
Cyril is about to go when Mrs. Pearson's voice checks him.
I have plenty of time.
Yes, but I haven't. Got a busy night tonight. Did you put my things out?
Can't remember, but I doubt it.
When I asked you this morning, you promised. You said you would have to look through first in case there was any mending.
Yes, well, now I have decided I don't like mending.
That's a nice way of talking. What would happen if we all talk like this?
You all do talk like that. If there's something at home you don't want to do, you don't do it. If it's something at your work, you get the union to bar it. Now, all that's happened is that I have joined the movement.
I don't get this, Mom. What's going on?
Changes.
Doris enters left.
She is in the process of dressing and is now wearing a warp. She looks pale and red eyed.
You look terrible. I wouldn't wear that faces even for Charlie Spence.
Shut up about Charlie Spence. And anyhow, I'm not ready yet. Just dressing. And if I do look terrible, it's your fault. You made me cry.
Why? What did she do?
Never you mind.
Have we any stout left? I can't remember.
Bottle or two, I think, but you don't want shout now.
I do.
What for?
To drink, you glot.
Mrs. Pearson exits right. Instantly, Cyril and Doris are in a huddle, close together at left center, rapidly whispering. Has she been like that with you too?
Yes. No tea ready. Couldn't care less like no.
Well, I'm glad it's both of us. I thought I would done something wrong.
So did I. Hmm? But it's her, of course.
She was smoking and playing cards when I came in. I couldn't believe my eyes.
I asked her if she was feeling wrong or off color. She said no.
Well, she's suddenly all different, and that's what made me cry. It wasn't what she said, but the way she said it, and the way she looked.
Haven't you noticed? She looked just the same to me.
She doesn't to me. Do you think she could have hit her head or something? And got. What is it? You know?
Do you mean she's balmy?
No, you fathead. Concussion. She might have.
Sound far fetched.
Well, she is far fetched, if you ask me.
Now then, what is it?
If she is going to be like this when dad comes home.
I'm staying in for that. 2 front desks, circle for the first house.
Mrs. Pearson enters right, carrying a bottle of stout and a half-filled glass. Cyril and Doris try to stop their guffawing and giggling, but they are not quick enough. Miss Pearson regards them with contempt.
You two always talking about being grown up. Why don't you both try for once to be your age?
She moves to the settee and sits.
Can't we laugh now?
Yes, if it's funny, go on, tell me. Make me laugh. I could do with it.
You know, you never understand our jokes, Mum.
I was yarning at your jokes before you were born, Doris.
What's make you talk like this? What have we done?
Nothing. But come in, ask for something, go out again, and then come back when there's nowhere else to go.
Look, if you won't get tea ready, then I'll find something to eat myself.
Why not? Help yourself.
Cyril turning on his way to the kitchen.
Mind you, I think it's a bit thick. I've been working all day.
Same here.
8-hour day.
Yes, 8-hour day, and don't forget it.
I've done my 8 hours.
That's different.
Of course, it is.
It was. Now it isn't. 40-hour week for all now. Just watch it at the weekend when I have my 2 days off.
Doris and Cyril exchange alarmed glances. Then they stare at Miss Pearson, who returns their look calmly.
Must grab something to eat. Look as if I'll need to keep my strength up.
Mummy, you don't mean you are not going to do anything on Saturday and Sunday?
No, I wouldn't go that far. I might make a bed or two and do a bit of cooking as a favor. Which means, of course, I'll have to be asked very nicely and thanked for everything and generally made a fuss of. But any of you 40-hour-a-weekers who expect to be waited on hands and foot on Saturday and Sunday with no thanks for it are in for a nasty disappointment. Might go off for the weekend perhaps?
Go off for the weekend.
Why not? I could do with a change. Stuck here day after day, week after week. If I don't need a change, who does?
But where would you go? How would you go with?
That's my business. You don't ask me where you should go and who you should go with, do you?
That's different.
The only difference is that I am a lot older and better able to look after myself. So it's you who should do the asking.
Did you fall or hit yourself with something?
No, but I'll hit you with something, girl, if you don't stop asking silly questions.
Oh, this is awful.
Stop blubbering. You're not a baby. If you're old enough to go out with Charlie Spence, then you're old enough to behave properly. Now stop it.
George Pearson enters left. He is about 50, fundamentally decent but Solomon. Self-important, pompous, preferably he should be heavy, slow-moving type. He noticed Doris' tears.
Hello, what's this? Can't be anything to cry about.
You'll see.
Doris runs out left with a sob or two on the way. George stares after her a moment, then looks at Mrs. Pearson.
Did she say you will see?
Yes.
What did she mean?
Better ask her.
George looks slowly again at the door, then at Mrs. Pearson. Then he noticed the stout that Mrs. Pearson raises another sip. His eyes almost bulge.
South.
Yes.
What are you drinking south for?
Because I fancied some.
At this time of day?
Yes, what's wrong with it and this time of day?
Nothing, I supposed. Any, but I have never seen you do it there.
Well, you are seeing me now.
Yes, I don't like it. It doesn't look right. I am surprised at you.
Well, that ought to be a nice change for you.
What do you mean?
It must be some time since you were surprised at me, George.
I don't like surprise. I am all for a study going on. You ought to know that by this time. By the way, I forgot to tell you, this morning I wouldn't want any tea. Special snooker match night at the club tonight and bit of super going. So on tea.
That's all right. There isn't any.
You mean you didn't get any ready?
Yes, and a good thing too, as it's turned out.
That's all. Very well, but suppose I did wanted some.
My goodness, listen to my man annoyed because I don't get a tea for him that he doesn't even want. Even tried that at the club.
Tried? What at the club?
Going up to the bar and telling you don't want a glass of beer but you are annoyed because they haven't already poured it out. Try that one of them and see what you.
I don't know. What are you talking about?
They did laugh at you even more than they do now.
Laugh at me? They don't laugh at me.
Of course they do. You ought to have found that out by this time. Anybody else would have done. You are one of their standing jokes. Famous. They call you Pompey Umpy Pearson because they think you are so slow and pompous.
Never.
It's always beaten me why you should want to spend so much time at a place where they're always laughing at you behind your back and calling your names, leaving your wife at home night after night instead of going out with her, who doesn't make you look a fool.
Shrill enters right with a glass of a milk in one hand and a thick of a slice of a cake in another. George, almost dazed, turned to him, appealing. Here, Shrill, you have been with me to the club once or twice. They don't laugh at me, and they call me Pompey Umpy Fearson, and they do. Go and tell me, do they?
Well, yes, Dad. I'm afraid they do.
George slowly looks from one to another, staggered. Well, I will be damned. George exits left slowly, almost as if somebody has hit him over his head. Shrill, after watching him go, turns on indignantly to Mrs. Pearson.
Now you should not have told him that, Mum. That's not fair. You were hurt his feelings. Mine too.
Sometimes it does people good to have their feelings hurt. The truth oughtn't to hurt anybody for long. If your father didn't go to the club so often, perhaps they had stopped laughing at him.
I doubt it.
Possibly you do. But what I doubt is whether your opinion's worth having. What do you know? Nothing. You spend too much time and good money at greyhound races and dirt tracks and ice shows.
Well, what if I do? I have got to enjoy myself somehow. Have not I?
I wouldn't mind so much if you were really enjoying yourself. But are you? And where's it getting you?
There is a sharp hurried knocking here off left. Might be for me. I will see.
Shrill hurries out left. In a moment, he re enters, closing the door behind him.
It's that silly old bag from next door, Mrs. Fitzgerald. You don't want her here, do you?
Certainly I do. Ask her in. And don't call her a silly old bag either. She's a very nice woman with a lot more sense than you will ever have.
Shrill exits left. Mrs. Pearson finishes her stout, smacking her lips. Shrill re enters left, ushering in Mrs. Fitzgerald, who hesitates in the doorway.
George and Doris exit left. As they go, Mistress Fitzgerald moves to left of the small table and sits. She eagerly beckons Mistress Pearson to do the something.
Mrs. Fitzgerald, we must change back now. We really must.
Why?
Because this has gone for enough. I can see they are all miserable and I can't bear it.
A bit more of the same would damn good, making a great difference already.
No, I can't stand any more of it. I really can't. We must change back. Hurry up. Please, Mrs. Fitzgerald.
Well, if you insist.
Yes, I do. Please, please.
She stretches her hands across the table eagerly. Mistress Pearson takes them.
Quiet now, relax.
Mistress Pearson and Mistress Fitzgerald stare at each other, muttering exactly as before. They carry out the same action as before, going legs and then coming to life, but this life, of course, they become their proper personalities.
Hey, well, I enjoyed that.
I didn't.
Well, you ought to have done. Now listen, Mrs. Pearson, don't go soft on him again, else it will all have been wasted.
I will try not to, Mrs. Fitzgerald.
They have not had as long as I did like to have. Give him another hour or two's rough treatment. Might have made it certain.
I'm sure they will do better now. Though I don't know how I am going to explain.
Don't you make starting don't you make start any explaining or apologizing or you are done for.
It's all right for you, Mrs. Fitzgerald. After all, they are not your husband and children.
Now you listen to me. You admitted yourself you were spoiling him and they didn't appreciate you. Any apologize, any explanations and you will be straight back where you were. I am warning you dear. Just give him a look, a tone of voice, now and again, to suggest you might be tough with him if you wanted to be, and it ought to work. Anyhow, we can test it.
How?
Well, what is it you did like him to do that they don't do? Stop at home for once.
Yes, and give me a hand with supper.
Anything you did like him to do that you enjoy, whether they do or not.
Well, yes, I like a nice game of rummy. But of course, I hardly ever have one, except at Christmas.
That's all. Do then. But remember, keep frame or you have had it. Hoy, you can come in now. But remember a frame hand.
George, Doris, and Cyril file in through the doorway looking apprehensively at Mistress Pearson. I am just off to let you enjoy yourself. The family looks anxiously at Mistress Pearson, who smiles much relieved. They smile back at her.
Yes, mother. Seeing that you don't want to go out, I tell you what I thought we had to do.
Remember.
No objection, I hope.
No, mother, whatever you say.
I thought we had a nice family game of rummy, and then your children could get the supper ready while I have talked with your father.
Suits me. What about you two?
Yes, that's all right.
Well, I.
What? Speak up.
Oh, I think it would be lovely.
Goodbye, Mrs. Fitzgerald, and come again soon.
Yes, dear. Night all. Have a nice time.
Mistress Fitzgerald exits left and the family cluster round mother as the curtain falls.
तू कितनी अच्छी है, तू कितनी भोली है, प्यारी प्यारी